The 18th Amendment was supposed to make America sober, but it didn't quite work out that way. Instead, it spawned a huge illegal industry of alcohol smuggling, and at the center of it all were the bootleggers. Welcome to the Fudge Network. Today, we're diving into the world of Prohibition bootleggers. But before we continue, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, and drop us a comment letting us know what other topics from the Prohibition era you'd like to explore. Ready? Hang on tight, we've got a wild ride ahead of us. Back in 1917, the US Congress made a historic decision. They passed a constitutional amendment that banned the making, selling, and transporting of booze. Cheers to that, right? Not so fast. This move, known as Prohibition, didn't quite turn out as planned. The temperance movement, dating back to the 19th century, thought getting rid of alcohol would solve society's problems and make everyone happier. But reality had other ideas. Instead of a booze-free utopia, Prohibition gave rise to a whole new set of issues. Crime rates skyrocketed, gang violence thrived, and guess what? Alcohol was still flowing freely, thanks to those sneaky bootleggers. They took advantage of the situation and became the go-to source for a drink. To make matters even more interesting, there was the Volstead Act. It allowed certain types of alcohol, like whiskey and brandy, to be prescribed by doctors for medicinal purposes. Suddenly, everyone seemed to have some ailment requiring a doctor's prescription for a good old sip of hooch. Doctors made a fortune, around $40 million, that's a lot of dough, even by today's standards. But what about those who couldn't convince their doc to prescribe them a drink? Enter the bootleggers once again. They set up hidden joints called speakeasies, where thirsty folks could enjoy a secret rendezvous with their beloved booze. Speakeasies, known by colorful names like Blind Tigers or Blind Pigs, embraced the thrill of breaking the law during the era of Prohibition. These underground establishments, often controlled by criminal syndicates, began as simple places to enjoy a drink. However, as the years passed and the ban persisted, speakeasies evolved into more than just a drinking spot. They became hubs of entertainment, drawing in crowds despite frequent police raids. In fact, legend has it that a single cross street in Midtown Manhattan boasted 32 hidden speakeasies in 1925. Although they were meant to be secretive, word would spread, and patrons would simply move on to the next place if one got shut down. Speakeasies had a significant impact on American culture, providing spaces where people from different backgrounds could mix and mingle. These establishments also embraced women, a progressive move for the time. And let's not forget their influence on drinking customs. The lower quality of bootleg booze led to the rise of mixed drinks that cleverly masked the taste of the alcohol. So, the next time you sip a creatively crafted cocktail, you can thank the speakeasies for inspiring the trend of flavor-packed libations. Cheers to the secret hideaways that left their mark on history. Being a bootlegger was no ordinary gig, it required more than just producing alcohol. It demanded a touch of trickery and finesse. See, bootlegging often involved diluting the booze, but that didn't mean charging less. In fact, one clever bootlegger mentioned in a 1926 piece in The New Yorker revealed that customers assumed quality if they paid a premium. And who in their right mind would refuse booze? Sobriety wasn't exactly a roaring trend in the 1920s, you know. On top of that, a bootlegger had to be skilled in dropping the right name when facing the long arm of the law. That New Yorker interviewee shared his secret. He'd mention a corrupt politician, and like magic, the police let him slip away. Cramped spaces were no obstacle either, bootleggers were nimble movers. They navigated hidden tunnels beneath Los Angeles, once used for trolleys, while Chicago bootleggers roamed through interconnected uptown basements, linking spots like the Green Mill, the Uptown Theater, and the Aragon Ballroom. Oh, and let's not forget the inventiveness required to stash all that contraband. Bootleggers were masters of disguise and secret compartments, ensuring that their precious cargo remained hidden from prying eyes. Prohibition may have outlawed booze, but it couldn't extinguish the fiery spirit of those ingenious bootleggers. Ah, the art of transporting your secret libations. Bootleggers had their ingenious methods, like the flask cane or tippling cane, a hollow cane for carrying your chosen drink. Nothing says classy inebriation like a hidden flask in your walking stick. But for those who wanted a more inconspicuous approach, there were thigh flasks, affectionately known as thigh tins. And then there were the fake book flasks, books that doubled as secret liquor compartments. Talk about literary libations. Some went all out, like the cleverly titled spring poems, The Four Swallows, housing 4 hidden flasks. Subtlety at its finest, right? almost as subtle as the Hardy Boys in the case of the hidden booze. But what about larger quantities? Well, between Windsor, Canada, and Detroit, Michigan, bootleggers made good use of the Detroit River. They employed torpedoes on underwater cable systems to transport up to 40 cases of alcohol an hour. Speedboats were also in on the action, crossing the river under the watchful eye of lookout binoculars. And when winter turned the water to ice, fearless bootleggers drove their precious cargo right across. Gangsters, once focused on gambling and prostitution, swiftly shifted their sights to the lucrative world of bootlegging. The likes of Al Capone built empires on the sale of illicit liquor in Chicago. Violence became their currency, with over 200 gangland slayings recorded in the Windy City during the first 4 years of Prohibition alone. Capone was just one of many infamous figures who emerged, alongside the likes of Dutch Schultz, Charles Lucky Luciano, Dino Banyan, Arnold the Brain Rothstein, Enoch Louis Nucky Johnson, and Benjamin Bugsy Siegel. These were not your typical businessmen, but rather, formidable characters whose influence extended far beyond their shadowy enterprises. So, while the allure of wealth may beckon, remember the perils that come with the territory. Prohibition was a playground for both audacious adventurers and fearsome kingpins, shaping an era filled with danger, corruption, and larger-than-life personalities. Prohibition was a wild ride for organized crime, but for the legitimate manufacturing industry, it was like a punch to the gut. Back in 1873, the United States boasted around 4,000 breweries that filled our glasses with liquid joy. However, as the temperance movement gained momentum by 1910, that number dropped to a sobering 1,500. And when the Roaring Twenties rolled in, Prohibition slammed the door shut on breweries altogether. Yet, against all odds, some companies managed to weather the storm. Take Wisconsin's Pabst Brewing Company, for example. They cleverly removed brewing from their name and pivoted to crafting a delightful cheese spread called Pabstat. Yuengling, another survivor, shifted gears to produce near beer with their three offerings: Yuengling Special, Yuengling Pour Tour, and Yuengling Juvo. And in a twist that could tickle your taste buds or leave you scratching your head, they delved into the realm of ice cream. Anheuser-Busch also dipped their toes into the icy treat market and dabbled in soft drinks and non-alcoholic malt beverages. Meanwhile, some distilleries, like Jim Beam, managed to scrape by thanks to the medicinal alcohol exception. Moonshining, an age-old craft, hit turbo speed during Prohibition, and those crafty moonshiners needed a ways to transport their liquid gold. That's when cars disguised as ordinary stock vehicles emerged. These cars were like speed demons on wheels, armed with high-powered engines to leave the law in the dust and heavy-duty shocks and springs to safeguard their precious cargo. When Prohibition finally came to an end, those moonshine runners still clung tightly to their souped-up stock cars. But their need for speed didn't fade away. Organized races started popping up all over the place, and in December of 1947, a fearless mechanic named Big Bill France had an audacious idea. He gathered the minds of car owners, drivers, and mechanics, and together, they birthed something legendary: the National Association for Stock Car Auto Racing, better known as NASCAR. In 1933, after very long 14 years, the United States Congress finally came to its senses and repealed Prohibition. It was a momentous occasion marked by the 21st Amendment, which bid farewell to the ill-fated 18th Amendment. Legend has it that the great President Franklin D. Roosevelt, sensing the collective thirst of the nation, remarked to an aide that it was the perfect time to crack open a cold one. So, my friends, after this wild ride through the era of bootleggers and rum runners, I'm curious to know, would you have considered a career as a bootlegger? Share your thoughts in the comments, and while you're at it, make sure to check out some of the other captivating videos from the Fudge Network.